December 22nd is when Hawkeye ended. April 22nd is when your boy finally made time to do that review. Shameful. Shameful. But we're here talking about another MCU story that, much like Iron Man 3, incorporates some dynamic holiday elements that work well inside of the story, giving an OG Avenger his moment in the spotlight, right? So let's chop it up about a damn near deaf superhero who just wants you to get the fuck out of his face.
I feel like I'm made out of gingerbread. Crumb picking, lip licking gingerbread.
Hawkeye on Disney Plus takes place 2 years after Avengers Endgame. Clint Barton just wants to spend the holiday season with his family and probably the rest of his life. Retirement time. But when a young woman named Kate Bishop accidentally wears the Ronin costume, that brings sins from Clint's past to the present, right? Also, it awakens a big, round, husky, hungry crime boss in New York City. Now, this show had such a huge responsibility in not only giving Hawkeye his moment to really shine by himself, sort of, but it also had to set up a plethora of characters for the future MCU. Movies, shows, so many characters were set up, and they did a really good job at balancing between the many. Now, this whole thing opened up with Kate Bishop as a young girl. She's scared, right? You got the Chitauri army that's attacking New York. And in her most fearful moment, she saw Clint Barton do some superhero shit. He's fighting aliens. This man's a human. He's jumping off rooftops. This man's a human. He can't fly. But she's seen him do this extraordinary thing. Kid, you can imagine that being ingrained in your mind, and that sent her on a path to becoming a huge Hawkeye stan, because this woman's a stan. But also, it wasn't just that Kate scene, but it was the opening title cards that really kind of got me to see creative elements they were putting into it. Those told a story that assisted the character as we caught up to her with modern day. I was really glad to see that Clint Barton never really quite moved on from Natasha's death, considering how fast everything happened in Avengers Endgame. So it makes sense that here he is watching this cringy play. This shit is cringe beyond belief with the little ballerina twirling Ant-Man. That motherfucker was a female K-pop star. He's part of Girls' Generation, okay? That motherfucker was trolling his ass off. The acting performances in this show are all solid across the board, right? It allows for certain plot twists or misdirections to actually be sold to you with conviction, right? Whether it's Jack, whether it's Kate's mom, you can accept those things because the acting performances are solid. Now, there was one that I thought reached above and beyond. Vincent D'Onofrio comes back. Can I say he comes back? But he's here as Kingpin, right? And one thing I love about his incarnation of the character is this silent rage inside of him with this very subtle eye twitch. Elena, don't be rash when he starts getting mad.
In the spirit of the holidays, I'm going to give you a minute to think about what you're starting right now.
Though certain parts of this story really does treat Kate Bishop like she's a fucking teeny bop. She's out here doing things that are wild. Destroy a bell tower? I'm canceling your credit cards. Try to stab my fiance in the face? I am so disappointed in you. Go to your room. This is so ridiculous how they treat her with no sort of adult authority. She's 22 years old. She's an adult, motherfucker. It's that time, baby. Y'all gotta start holding her accountable. It really takes a while in this series for the action sequences to really hit you. When you had Kate Bishop beating up tracksuit mafia members with wine bottles and courage, I was like, bruh, this is cringe beyond belief. But episode 3, bruh, the chase sequence involving an array of different arrows as they work together for the first time was incredible. The exclamation point to that scene being a gigantic arrow falling down on, is that the New York Bridge or the Empire State Bridge? What's that bridge called? I don't know what that bridge called, but he slammed down on the bridge. That was a great sequence. And also episode 4 had another one where it was a little bit more emotional as you had Yelena, Echo, Clint, and Kate all fighting on top of a rooftop. And when Kate gets thrown over, you see that Black Widow moment from Endgame. I love in that scene where Kate's looking up, pull me up! But Clint just blacked out, like, oh my God, it's happening again. Boom, get out of here, go. I love that shit. And even making that scene better was you had 4 people fighting on a rooftop that all had different fight styles, right? In a confined space. Really showing how incredibly shot that entire sequence was. I also love how characters hit emotional highs or emotional lows at such key moments that have you just pierced to the screen waiting for the next episode. Also, I want to get into the lowlights before we end this review, because this series ain't perfect, bruh. The LARPing crew. Can somebody tell me why Hawkeye willingly put these people in harm's way so they could pitch in during the build-up to the final battle? Now, the one woman, I understand, she's a police officer. She might be able to pitch in a little bit, but these other people, Grills and the other chick, that's ridiculous. Was so good in this series. I love Florence in the role. But at the end of Black Widow, she was sent after Hawkeye by Valentina Allegra, right? This is the guy that killed your sister. Go get him. But then when we get to Hawkeye, we find out that Kate's mother is the one who hired her. Something making no sense. The tracksuits were able to track Kate to her first apartment, but they couldn't find her aunt's apartment. So her and Hawkeye are going back and forth to this apartment in somebody else's name the entire series. And nobody's like, hey, let's track them, let's see where they're gonna go tonight. Nothing. I can see if it was a SHIELD facility, some hidden bunker somewhere, but nah, it ain't nothing like that. Get the fuck on, man. Overall though, Hawkeye as a series is exactly what Clint Barton needed, his own solo story. It sets up so many for dynamic MCU futures, right? So, Hawkeye on Disney Plus. What does he get? What does it deserve? Hawkeye gets a motherfucking B. I so badly wanted to give it an A, but there was just some little things that I already pointed out that were picking at me. I mean, come on, bruh. We had Scooby-Doo vibes. Mystery Incorporated, baby. That ain't it. That ain't it. The next review we have on the channel is Morbius. That's the scariest thing I said today.